So typically, as we've shared with our previous guests, we've seen cancel culture usually in the area of academia, not so much medical doctor. What happened here?
Well, I don't know, other than there's just been a sort of general trend towards this idea that we all have to be on the same page on all issues all the time. And that has now just extended to a broader and broader segment of society. I think it's part of an ongoing trend that perhaps emerged from the universities, but is taking hold. And, as those folks come out of university, they find themselves working in regulatory colleges, working in human rights departments or human resources departments and other areas of society where those ideas that came out of the university cancel culture are extending further afield.
And I recall, I live in Ontario, and I recall in 2015, I think this is, well, at least in my recent memory, the earliest indication of cancel culture in the medical field. In 2015, we had something called Bill 77, and it was sort of like that conversion therapy ban bill they have federally. However, Dr. Kenneth Zucker, who was then the head of the Center for Addiction and Mental Health in Toronto, the Gender Identity Clinic, and he met with children who were gender dysphoric. Some transitioned, some he didn't, but he generally tried not to approach it with a gender affirming therapy. Like he just kind of, let's wait and see. That was kind of his approach. Well, he immediately got canceled. I think there was even a settlement afterwards a few years later. But that, to me, I was shocked. I was shocked how basically the woke mob went after pretty much one of their own and canceled him outright. So the entire clinic shut down.
Right. Well, and in that sphere, I'm dealing with a similar issue for a nurse out in BC right now whose commentary on, I guess you would say she's a gender critical feminist. And her commentary online has gotten her into hot water with her nursing college. And not because it's impacting on her patient care at all. There's absolutely no issue in that regard. And in fact, the complaints that have come in have not been from patients. And she has, in fact, had trans patients along the way, and there's never been an issue. But some activist, and a self-described activist, actually, if you look at his LinkedIn page, decided that it was just not appropriate for her to be a nurse and to have gender critical views. So he complained to the college, and now there's an investigation ongoing. And we're going to a hearing probably later this spring. I don't know that losing her license is necessarily going to be a consequence of this, but just the punishment is the process of having to be embroiled in all of this because someone on the street, not even someone you treated, has a problem with your viewpoint and has found that, here's a convenient way to try and get at this person.
I completely agree that it's very problematic when someone, as you said, so easily can just file a complaint. And, obviously the onus is on this nurse now to incur huge legal expenses. She's hired you as her lawyer to represent her. There is a public reputation issue. This might be out in public. People could easily search her name and say, oh, well, there's this and things like that. And while I appreciate transparency in medicine, obviously we want to know where there have been complaints with our doctors. If you want to research how your GP is, people go to, rate MDs all the time. But to me, I have concerns about, doctors' fear of, or anybody in the medical profession, this nurse, for example, their fear of expressing a privately held opinion or an opinion at all, and not necessarily in medicine. So how can we protect private discussions from entering their professional world? In this case, again, this was not a professional medical expert opinion. She just expressed her personal opinion on a hot issue of the day.
Well, that's right. And it is public in the sense that it's online. So if there's a connection that can be made to the fact that, she worked as a nurse, and I think there was at one point, that's the hook, right? You're out there and you're expressing these views and people know you're a regulated professional. And of course, we've seen this escalate during COVID, and physicians specifically have been told that they really cannot speak out against the public health narrative. And, even if they disagree profoundly with that, and even if they have good reason to disagree, and even if, public health doesn't get it all right, and there's better ways to do things, the colleges have made it very clear that you're not welcome to express those opinions publicly, and there may be consequences for doing so. We're all in it together, right? So, and the physicians just have to get aboard. And that's been a huge problem. It also puts a chill on the conversation in ways that I think we'll be feeling the effects of for generations to come, because it impacts on the level of trust we can have in our healthcare professionals.
Okay, well, I want to pick up this conversation about how COVID has impacted free speech with medical doctors in just a few moments.